This sad little golfer is me, chunking shots, duffing shots, chunking more shots. But the question is, can a week of targeted short game practice really make a big improvement to my game? So, if you're anything like me, the short game is where rounds go to die. It doesn't matter what app I use, Clipped, Arcos, they all say the same thing. I'm losing strokes around the green. And so I set out to have some targeted practice this week. I went to the range, you saw the duff shots, the chip shots. So after that, I did what any reasonable amateur golfer would do. I went out for more practice. Just kidding, I actually just went and watched a ton of YouTube videos. And we all know that always works, so here's me believing that I had it figured out now. But of course, the hard part of any learning process is that you don't know what you don't know, and so it's time to get a lesson. So after the light-hearted mockery ended, it was time for Matt to take a look at what I was doing and what was currently happening, and then I am going to go and explain what changed. So the first of the changes was again related to grip. I was using the same grip that I use for my irons, which is a strong grip in order to close the club face, and the plan here was to use a weaker grip to keep the club face open. We then went on to add layers of change. So the first one is just hinging the wrists up, also to stop me from dragging the club behind, which I had been doing before, and fully the club head is almost coming out in front of me. So this was about hinging, moving my weight forward and then hitting down on the ball. As you can see here from the start data, I was hitting down on the ball, I think maybe 3-4 degrees, and actually what was needed is about 10 degrees. So that at work you can see the significant changes in my swing patterns after the lesson. So we've got 10 degrees down, or at least steeper down, and it's now a more out to in path, so cutting across the ball in order to get that spin up. So here we are, 1 week on, back at the scene of the crime from the first video, where it was a little bit chunky, few thin shots. So it's been a week of practice, week of drills, a lesson in there for my irons. The grip is entirely different, and that helped to close the club face for the irons. But for these shots where I want the face to be a little bit more open, we've adjusted the grip again. The biggest thing that has changed is really my perception of where the club is going now. I'm in no way qualified to teach anyone anything about golf, but what I can do is I can show you what I've been advised, what I feel, and you can try it and see if it works for you. So if we look at the first video, and again I'll put a kind of comparison up, then I was bringing the club kind of behind me, and that was creating these shots where I was behind the ball, and if I wasn't behind the ball, then it was creating a shot where I basically sculled it through the back. Now those are both the same error. It's both coming from inside and then hitting the ground before the ball. One of them I get underneath the ball, and the other one basically just connect with the leading edge of the club and it disappears. And the biggest feel change for me, other than this grip, which actually I'm finding fairly straightforward, doesn't feel weird at all, is effectively feeling like the club's almost moving in front of me. Now I'm sure when I look back on this it's probably coming up parallel, but for me it just feels like the club head is in front of me rather than coming behind, and that just means that the sole can just get through the turf really easily. So the drill at the beginning of the week, which I failed at miserably, was really to see if I could get to different pins. This one here should be fairly straightforward. You could even bump and run this one, but it's going over a reasonable amount of rough, or at least first cut in the first instance before it gets onto the green, and so rollout would be variable. So ideally this would be one that you would put up into the air. So again, with a technique that I'm kind of working on now, it's wrists hinged, feel like the club's in front of me, and then swing across my body. Now Let's see if this does the job. So you can see that was a little fat, but it still, instead of just chunking down and going a few yards, it actually made it to the green, gives me a chance at a putt. Last week, if I'd done that, just because of where I was coming into the ball, and that really wouldn't have happened. And that's part of this as well, is to make sure that the bad shots are still, you know, getting the ball in the air. So that's okay, I can live with that one. So hopefully that'll check. So that's checked right next to the hole. And then the other thing that we were kind of discussing is, you know, how you gauge, you know, how high you bring the club back, how fast you bring it down, and part of that, you know, some people do that with checkpoints. So knee, hip, you know, shoulder, full. Other people do it by the clock, so 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and some people do it by feel. Now, the argument that was made for doing it by feel is, you know, if you were standing across the room and I asked you to throw a ball at me, you wouldn't get your rangefinder out and click to find out how far away I was. You'd be able to judge that. If you've thrown a ball before, you would be able to judge that. And so the difference becomes how high you flight the ball, and that's related to the release of the club. So if I were to release the club a little bit more, then it should come out high, and that's again right next to the pin. So hands releasing through the ball, so weight on the lead side, wrists hinged, and then release, and then it's that thing of feeling like the handle could go into the holster. That's a thing you see Dan Greaves talking about all the time, but I kind of understand it a little bit better now. So let's see if I can do that again, and that wasn't just a fluke. And again, that's checked up right next to the hole, so that's pressure on course. So bunker here, short-sided pin, downward sloping. Ideally trying to get this as close as possible, appreciating that stopping this is going to be pretty difficult. So let's see how we go on, or how many times we can avoid the bunker, which I think is the main thing. I think I'm taking the camera back a little bit. There we go. Right. Let's see if we can do this. Well, I mean, that would be a great shot if it was the back pin we were going for, but it's the front pin, so let's try that again. It's a nice light grip. So it's checked just next to it, but it's rolled out a bit. So I have to accept that is rolling down. If I wanted to get more spin on it, in theory, kind of a bit more speed through, open club face really. Let's see how we got on. Try not to put this into a villa. So one last one, just as part of the practice, part of the drills, different shots. So first one was, you know, reasonable distance, probably 30 yards. Second one over the bunker. Third one's a nice short shot. These ones here I find particularly difficult on the course, especially when you're in thicker rough. Now this is a downward slope to a short-sided pin, so it's kind of the same idea as the bucket I was hitting into. I'm not sure you can see the ball from where I am, so I'll move it forward. Yeah, that probably looks a bit better. So I guess for this one, for me, weight on the front foot, early wrist hinge, and then down, and we'll see if we can get it. It's popped up just a little and let it roll out off the front edge. Okay, so right, but okay. Same again, same grip, over. Ball's kind of in the back of my stance a little bit here. Early wrist hinge, weight on the front foot. Pretty good. So it's only been a week, but already I'm starting to see some progress just by putting in some hard work, focusing purely on the short game this week. I've had a couple of rounds over the weekend where I've had one round where I haven't lost any strokes in the short game, and another where I've gained some strokes with the short game around the green. So I think there's some definite early signs of improvement. I'm not going to go from being the way I was at the start of the week to all of a sudden being, a master of the short game, but at least now I feel like I have the techniques to practice and to work on moving forward. So again, I would say, that this isn't designed to be instructional in the way that you would get a lesson. It's designed just for me to describe what I did over the course of the week, the feeling or the feels that I now have with regards to the short game. And you can try it, you can save the video, you can give the things that I have done a go to see if it makes a difference. It's definitely worked for me, and that's the point of this whole journey, is to see if targeted practice will improve parts of the game, and I can see that already in the data that I'm collecting, and hopefully that will continue with ongoing hard work. So all that remains is to say thank you for watching the video. I'd love to hear any comments on the video, anything you do in your short game. I'd love more to hear if you benefited from it, or if you tried anything that's in the video. Please like, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss anything moving forward. Next week I am going to be back home in Scotland, so going to be a couple of rounds hopefully in Royal Troon and Donald Link, so I'll get some footage from those days which I'm looking forward to, and that will be the basis of the next episode before it moves on to more hard work drills and trying to show what I'm doing to improve my golf and to try and be late to scratch. Thanks again, bye.